to another Wildwoods Beekeeping live podcast, and tonight we have a very special guest, John Hill, the president of HillCo. And if you guys know what HillCo or who HillCo is, it's a very, very good beekeeping manufacturer in Illinois. They do a really good job. But I want to welcome John Hill into our live chat, and I appreciate you, John, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Grayson. Glad to be here.
Definitely. So the first question I do have for you, John, if you don't mind answering this, and I just want you to kind of give everybody a description of who you are, kind of where you started with bees, and how you kind of got into this realm of being able to make beekeeping equipment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I got started. You're 13, is that right, Grayson?
I think so, somewhere around there.
You think so? Okay. I got started a little bit later than you. I was 16 when I got started in bees. This was back in 2005 or 6. I just had an interest in it. I'd read something about it in a couple of magazines, and my family was traveling in Florida. We saw a lot of different beehives and orange groves in Florida and whatnot, and I just really had just kind of sparked an interest. And so I remember even being really little at 4 or 5 years old, seeing, I think it was seeing a place that sold honey, and it was kind of like behind a fence behind this. I assumed as this little kid, there was, hives behind this fence where I saw this sign for people selling honey. I remember even at that age being really fascinated by what that looked like or what the inside of a beehive might look like. And so again, fast forward 10 or 12 years later, I'm 15 or 16 now. And so yeah, kind of started getting closer to it, started getting some bee supply catalogs in and reading every book I could get my hands on, subscribing to the American Bee Journal and the Bee Culture magazine, and just really, really got enthused about it, excited about it. I'm sure you can relate. How long have you been in bees, Grayson?
I've been in bees for about 8 years so far.
Wow. Okay. So you guys started way before me. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, but I'm sure you remember the feeling as you're just getting started, right? That excitement, enthusiasm. And so, so started a couple of my first year, I caught a swarm is how I got into it. Somebody that we knew, my family knew, had us, and they knew I was interested in getting into bees, and they had a swarm land in their backyard, and they called me up, and I knew somebody else was in beekeeping, went and borrowed a box, and he didn't have any top or bottom board, just kind of made a makeshift top or bottom to get us by for the first few days until I could order some equipment, and I had nothing at the time. And so I caught our first swarm, and that's kind of where it started. Kept bees pretty steadily for several years there. Got up to maybe 10 or 15 hives at that point. And then several years after that, in my early 20s by now, got married, started having kids. My wife and I lived in town. So kind of got out of bees for a few more years, and then several years ago got back into it. And somebody else I knew from church had a hive they were wanting to get rid of. And so I snapped up the chance, and got back in the game. And so my intent a few years ago was to be a commercial beekeeper. And I wanted to do that ever since I was a kid in some form or fashion. And so I started ramping my numbers of hives and, decided, and I was working in a lumber yard at the time. This was, again, several years back. And so I had lumber available. I could buy an employee discount. I thought, I didn't know anything about woodworking, but I thought, maybe I can make my own hives. I was trying to do some figuring and math and, adding up how much it would take, how many hives I could add each year, how much money it would cost, et cetera, to add 50 hives this year, 100 hives that year, and so on. And, beekeeping equipment is expensive, right? And so I was like, okay, what if I start making my own hive boxes? And so I just watched a YouTube video where a guy made a beehive from basically a 1x12 board that he had bought from a lumberyard, and just that and a table saw. Well, I had an old junk table saw in my garage I bought for $5 on an auction one time. And so I went home, brought a couple boards home, and started cutting and fiddling around. And here I did about what he did, pretty crude hive, but it worked. It was, it was the right dimensions. It did the job. And so then I started making my own stuff and got better saws and better equipment. Thought, I can, keep doing better handles, things of that nature. And so, hello, Russell. I thought, my boxes got a little better by the next year. I thought, maybe I could start selling some of these boxes and make a little bit extra side money to help boost the overall project of, again, building up to commercial beekeeping eventually. And so I launched a crude website. I believe it was the end of 2019 or beginning of 2020. Launched a simple website, and Joey just had a few boxes on there and lids and bottom boards. And at the same time, I was also looking for a honey extractor for myself. I wasn't really liking the options I was seeing from the other U.S. suppliers. Too expensive or not the features I was looking for, perhaps. And so I started looking at overseas manufacturers and some different options, and eventually we imported our first few extractors, and I thought I'd try to sell those, and this was spring of 2020. Meantime, we're already building up, selling some hives and equipment I was building in the shop. And so our first batch of a few extractors came in, and a couple months later, I put them on Facebook, put them on our website, and just a few days, they were gone. It's just about a dozen extractors, I think, at first there. And so, but again, it all happened in a couple days, and I was sold out. And I thought, boy, we're on to something here. And so I gathered some money together. We ordered a bigger shipment of extractors and a bigger shipment of extractors after that. And as we got into 2021, things were really taking off. I went full time in the bee supply business in the summer of 2020. Meanwhile, I was still kind of been thinking there in the spring and summer of 2020 that I would continue to build up my hives and kind of have commercial beekeeping on one side and the supply business on the other side. And I got up to about 50 hives that year in 2020. And that was the highest I got. I started selling off after that because the supply business just really took off. And so since then, I've usually kept about 8 to 10 to 20 hives the last 2 or 3 or 4 years. And as I told you, before we went live here, I am currently without bees. I sold off all my bees last spring when I had a lot of big demand for bees, and I'd already sold out of all my nukes and packages that I get from down south. And so I sold off my bees last summer. We're getting ready to start up a few more this spring, but get 6 or 8 hives started this spring to get back in the game. But anyway, so the commercial beekeeping thing kind of went by the wayside, and it's been a hobbyist since then. But the bee supply business really took off, and every year has grown dramatically. And now we build our own extractors in-house from parts that we have made to our specs. We are not building our own woodenware anymore, our own boxes and stuff. We have a couple manufacturers here in the U.S. that build for us. And so, yeah, it's really taken off. We now have about 12 full-time employees, about 4 more part-timers, and just things keep growing bigger and bigger. We're really been blessed. It's been a lot of fun.
Definitely. I definitely know a lot about getting to bees and getting that feeling. It's really a fun thing to do. Sometimes it's hard to stay away from bees and different things like that.
Absolutely.
Like that. And right now, I don't have many hives. I just have 30 at the moment. I had 6 going into winter, but some of them just kind of got weak and didn't make it. But we're rebuilding coming up this spring. We're gonna get 6 nukes and kind of keep going.
Good job.
We're gonna keep trying to do that, trying to do some other things. Most of my hives right now are pretty strong. I'll say that. And some of them have had a beetle problem throughout winter, and right now I know one of them. I just checked them today. It was kind of I would say a bad beetle problem, but I think I got that situated, in a good manner. So but definitely, whenever you get into that aspect, of getting into the bees and learning them and be able to do that, I think it's really fun. And I remember whenever I got into bees about 7 to 8 years ago. I can't say for the for exact preciseness, but I remember in between those years, I kind of for a year didn't do bees. I still had 2 hives. I could see them every day, but I just never went out to the BR just because I think some of our dogs tore up our bee suits or whatever.
Oh, boy.
So we weren't able to go out there. So, I found that a funny thing. But a year later, I think we got some more suits, some new suits, and we're able to go back out there and do some more things. But that's definitely I love beekeeping and doing bees, and one of those things to keeping bees is being able to have good places to buy beekeeping equipment and different things like that. So that's definitely a good part too. Having a business, selling extractors and some of those different things. But I do have a question here. It's just a one that kind of came up in my head. Is there any new things that you are going to be any new tools or equipment that beekeepers may need that you may be trying to manufacture here soon?
Yeah, good question. We get so many people suggesting and asking for new things all the time. We're really trying hard. We find, that it's exciting. We want to launch a lot of products, but it's also we got to be careful a little bit because there's so much demand, not only for new products that we're not currently doing, but also the demand for our current product line keeps growing. And so it's always a balancing act of how fast do we let this thing grow? How many new products can we come out with? And do we want to do it right when we're doing it, And so we've had experiences in the past where we try to do too much at once or try to launch something too quickly and it can have problems. And then it becomes a whole issue of, we sure hate it when a customer has something of ours and it's giving them trouble. So we really have been trying hard to get things right the first time. But yeah, as far as new products, a big focus. So again, as you probably have figured out, a big focus of our company is on honey extracting equipment, honey processing equipment for the hobby and the sideliner beekeeper is our biggest focus. Again, we sell the woodenware, we sell the bee suits, we sell even live bees in the springtime, all those things. We try to be a full line beekeeping supplier, and we are, although we don't have as much variety as some of the other guys do because we are focusing a lot of our attention and resources on building out this product line of honey processing equipment. We feel like it's an underserved market, especially for sideliner beekeepers. There's just not enough options for beekeepers anywhere from 25 to 200 hives. When you're getting above that, you have some options for, say, uncapping machines or extracting equipment or any number of things, or heated bottling tanks. When you get in those smaller guys, mid-sized guys, there's just not enough options. We're really trying to plug those holes and fill those gaps where we can. But this year, our big focus is going to be on launching 1 or 2 uncapping machines that will work for hobbyists and sideliners, serious hobbyists and sideliners. There's a big gap there in the industry where there's not a whole lot of options between a hot knife and a several $1,000 commercial uncapping machine, And so that's something we're really working on. We have 2 or 3 different designs we're working on right now. Not exactly sure yet what the final thing is going to look like, but my really strong goal, and we're going to work really hard to get it done, if possible, is to have an uncapper to launch at the Bee Expo in 2025. Now, again, I can't make any for sure promises, but we're really going to try. We've been promising for a couple years now and haven't quite gotten there. Just been so busy with other things, but that's really our big goal. And there's a lot of other things too, but that's kind of the big one for this year.
Yeah, I get you. Definitely. It's always good to have, different products, as well as you said, not too many, stuff like that. It's always good, to have a lot of different beekeeping equipment. I really like, a lot of different extractors and, being able to have a lot of those different options for beekeepers because, some beekeepers are sideliners. They just need a medium extractor. They don't need a whole big commercial one, but they also don't need a hobbyist extractor, like 8-frame extractor or whatever. And you have your hobbyists that need 8-frame extractors or maybe even less. So definitely good to be have some of those different options for beekeepers. I want to pull up Thomas's comment here. I first got to say thank you to Thomas for the $20 donation, and he says, "Hey John and Grayson, I use the HillCo 9-frame radical extractor and the capping table. Great equipment and design, well built, and I absolutely love them. I highly recommend HillCo equipment. Thanks, John."
Well, thank you, Thomas, very much for the endorsement there. I sure appreciate that.
Definitely. I really like a lot of different equipment, and here there's a comment just recently. I can't pull it up at the moment, but these extractors are and equipment, beekeeping equipment. Excuse me. Is the beekeeping business here. Beekeeping is an equipment business because you're always trying to find different equipment to suit your needs. Or, whatever. So it's definitely a good thing to have. And I do have another question. This goes back to beekeeping. And I recently saw your video, and a lot of other beekeepers who don't know your channel, HillCo, and you have some really good videos on there for beekeepers. And I'll try to put the link in the chat in a second. But the question I do have is, of course, you have nukes, you got packages, and what are some differences that you see in packages and nukes that you would give to a beekeeper, whether it be, the benefits of a nuke versus package and vice versa?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think both are great options. I think it just depends on several different factors. So I tell people, packages. What I love about package bees is that you can start when you, as a new beekeeper, if you start with fresh equipment and a package of bees, you've never seen the process firsthand before. What's beautiful about a package is that you can install those bees on fresh foundation, and you can see that process unfold of how basically a swarm of bees, artificial swarm of bees, but a swarm of bees, how they start their work, how they start a hive virtually from scratch. We give them foundation to work with, obviously, but other than that, they're basically starting from scratch. So you get to see the process of introducing a queen, which can be helpful to a beekeeper down the road. You can see them start to draw a comb. You start to see that queen lay eggs. All these processes you see from day one with a package. So I really like that about a package. Personally, between my own use and from selling thousands of packages over the years, we have seen a very great success rate of package bees. Now you'll hear mixed opinions on this stuff. This is just my opinions from my own experience, but great results overall. They're a little bit cheaper. And also with nukes, and again, you'll hear varying opinions on this. With nukes, kind of a pro of packages is that, you have basically just roughly 10,000 loose bees there. You're going to have less chance of mite infestation because they're not on combs. There's no brood there. And so, packages can be a little bit of a safer bet there in some circumstances. Now, nukes, on the other hand, can be great for other reasons because depending on what time of year you get them versus a package, you can kind of have a leg up on the process. You can maybe have a better chance of getting honey the same year. For example, here in our business, we're selling both April nukes and packages, whereas in northern climates, typically folks can't get nukes until May. And so when you have an April nuke, you certainly got a leg up on the package of bees that way because they're already established, right? They already typically have 4 or 5 frames of bees built out. You have drawn comb, you have pollen and honey, you have brood in all stages. The queen is already laying. So it's super nice with a nuke to just be able to take those 5 frames of bees and transfer them into your own box. And but I think the biggest thing with nukes is you have to trust your breeder. Because again, we've seen heard of situations where you can buy nukes and if they weren't properly, if mites weren't kept under control, varroa mites were not kept under control, you can have a real problem there real fast with a nuke. Sometimes we've seen very old comb on nukes. So those are some potential drawbacks with nukes. Nukes are also more expensive, but on the other hand, typically with a nuke, you're getting 5 frames of drawn comb. You're getting a nuke box of some kind, all stuff you can reuse later. So a lot of the price difference between a package and a nuke is frequently, the higher price of a nuke is typically somewhat evened out by the additional equipment you get by buying a nuke. So those are some of the main points I make usually.
I get you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There's definitely benefits for both, and there's drawbacks from both.
Mm-hmm.
I've used both. I've used nukes, and I've also used packages. I really, as long as your producer or you're the guy who's making the nukes and stuff like that. And whenever you look at these different things, and of course with the 5 frame nuke. You get 5 frames of drawn comb with the queen, and I usually get I kind of like a nuke a little bit better. But there's also there can be a downside to nuke sometimes. Sometimes if it always goes back to who's really making the nukes. You want a strong nuke. If sometimes those people may. I'm not saying would, but sometimes if not known, it could be like a very weak nuke or have a lot of mites, and some of those different things that a nuke may have that might be resolved if you got a package instead. But there's a lot of different opinions and stuff. Just me. I usually get a little bit closer to the nukes. I've used nukes and I really like them. I really do enjoy putting using nukes, and that's just something I really like to use.
Yeah, no, I think you're not wrong there. I think there's, again, pros and cons to both. I think, in my opinion, it's a 50-50 thing. I think, again, it depends largely on who your breeder is. But yeah, it's, both are great options. Both have very strong success rates. I think a new beekeeper who's wrestling with this question, you can't go wrong either way. Yep.
Definitely can't. You really can't. Like you said, it's a 50-50 really on each one. Sometimes it really just depends. Whenever you go into that aspect of beekeeping, and be able to do it that way, and a lot of different things. Let's see. I think that we had a question here. Oh, here we go. It's from Joseph Rolls.
Oh, hey Joe.
He says, "Hey John, what type of glue do you use on frames y'all sell? Someone saw that I use your frames and asked me about that, and I didn't have the answer."
Yeah, Joe. Hey, great to see you. Hear from you. Hope you're doing good. Old buddy of mine from the bee conference, from Cayman's conferences. Great guy. Joe, I'm pretty sure it's Tight Bond 2. I'm almost positive. The reason I say I'm almost positive because our frames that we sell, our assembled frames that we sell, come from our frame manufacturer pre-assembled. So we sell both unassembled and fully assembled frames. But the assembled frames we sell are put together at the factory. They put them together. They stamp our name into them, and then we just snap the foundation in at our shop. So, but I'm pretty sure what I've seen there in their shop when I've been up there is Tight Bond 2.
Definitely. We sometimes build, nukes and different stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I really, we've built nukes ourselves in boxes, that manner. And I've always, really used Tight Bond 2. There's, we've used Tight Bond 3 too. They both, work. Tight Bond 2 is really good, for frames and stuff like that. Sometimes Tight Bond 3 can be good for, the outer, parts. But really, I think Tight Bond 2 is really good for everything. All parts of my beehive, and in my opinion, because we've used it before. It really does work well. Whenever you're building frames or if you're, putting together a hive.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think with frames, the biggest thing too, in addition to having a good quality glue, the biggest thing is also how you place your staples, making sure you have your staples well placed. We always make sure that our frames have a total of 6 staples in addition to glue at all 4 joints. And the 6 staples, you'll have that, especially, it's miserable when you're trying to pull a frame out of a hive, a heavily propellized hive, and the top bar comes loose from the sidebars. It's not fun. And so a very key thing, in addition to having great quality glue, is having those 6 staples, those extra 2 staples going in, locking the top bar and the end bars in together from the sides, not just going the top, but going the sides too is really key. Having that mechanical fastener holding that together, I think is really important. So yeah, Tight Bond 3, I think that's what our own shop in house is. We do assemble our boxes that we sell, and some other components we're assembling in house. And we were doing Tight Bond 2. I believe we're transitioning to Tight Bond 3 now. It's a little more expensive, but a lot of people respect a little more. They're both exterior rated glues. But the Tight Bond 3 seems to have a little bit better reception among the customer base. We've been switching to Tight Bond 3.
Definitely, something to look into and stuff like that. I got the next topic I do want to talk about, and recently on your YouTube channel, you might have remembered it, and I've been really been trying to get bee vacs and some of these different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you probably have videos on your channel, so I did leave the link down there to the HillCo channel, and he also does have a website. I'll link that in the description. Actually,
Thank you.
In the description, and I'll put it in the comments too if people want to go check HillCo out. But on one of your recent videos, talked about a lot of different things about bee vacs, and I've really been into trying to get a bee vac here soon. I've been really wanting to get one because I've been trying to get trying to get out cutouts and stuff. And I recently had a cutout that I was going to do, but it was in summer and it was like way too hot. It was like 100 degrees in the suit for like 5 hours or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really fun to do that. And,
nope.
Definitely, it's not really fun to do that. And, I always thought that the bee vac would probably be a little bit better because, at that time I didn't have a bee vac, and right now I currently don't have a bee vac, but I look to get one. But what are some different options for a bee vac, and what are some different, opinions that you may have on what you hear, what you may have experience on, with bee vacs?
Sure. So I'll start out by saying, Grace and I have never done a cutout myself. So beyond testing our own bee vac that we're selling in my yard a little bit, just vacuuming up bees out of hives and off the ground and things of that nature, I have never done a cutout to where I've really been using a bee vac at length. But so I'll say a couple things. So we do have a bee vac on our website for now. I'll be just completely transparent about it. I think it's a great product. I think it's one of the better vacs out there. That being said, it is a temporary product. We've only got, I think, maybe 15 or 20 left in stock right now. We built a small amount of them. A couple years ago, well, about a year and a half ago, I was going to launch that same bee vac using the Hive Butler tote, which is a great product, by the way. The Hive Butler, if you looking for an uncapping tank or something, the Hive Butler is a great product. We were trying to build a bee vac, working with Tracy, the lady who developed the Hive Butler product. We were going to develop a bee vac using the Hive Butler tote. And so I looked at some options. We settled on a certain vac head. It's basically just a Craftsman small shop vac with the bottom with the container, the canister, trash canister removed, and fastened onto the Hive Butler tote with a special lid reinforcing piece we cut into CNC. And so it's a great bee vac. And it's affordable. It's lightweight. As far as the corded bee vacs go, it's the best out there that I'm aware of. But what happened was, as I was kind of developing that, kind of put in the back burner because we had too many other things going on. Last summer, I met Tony from the Everything Bee Vac. He's a great guy from Texas. He's an engineer, very, very sharp guy. He builds a product called the Everything Bee Vac, and basically uses a tall yellow 5-gallon bucket, kind of an extra high, like a 7-gallon bucket or something. And he has his own special vac set up on it. It's battery powered. He's got a lot of awesome features built into that bee vac. And frankly, he retails that vac at the base price. Is similar to what I was going to be, not too much more, a little bit more, but not too much more than what we were going to be selling our vac for at retail. And so I thought, well, that's a better product, especially when you can go vacuum bees with a cordless vac, not having to drag around a cord with you. It's a more compact vac. He's got a backpack strap set up for it, all kinds of really, really neat features. If you buy the upgraded model, I think you got speed control. You got like a remote switch you can run from your, you can clip it onto your shirt or something and run from there. So I see we got an endorsement on there. Yeah. So really, really neat product that we're going to be selling ourselves here soon. But when I saw that, I'm like, oh my, I can't compete with that. That's a much better product. And so I kind of we already had like 50 vacs bought. We already had some of the HDPE plastic pieces bought for reinforcing the lid. Some of the stuff we already had, some hardware, nuts and bolts. We had a lot of the components bought to launch our Hive Butler bee vac. But then I saw this everything thing, and I said, well, you know what, forget it. But then I thought, well, I still got these vacs. I have already invested in this stuff, so we're just going to build this set of 50 we've got, and we're going to launch them at the Bee Expo in Kentucky. And we sold a bunch of them there, and we're still selling the last few off here. But, again, our product is great. Nothing wrong with it. I'm underselling it here because it is a great product, but I think that Everything Bee Vac is the future, and so we're going to be transitioning to that once these are gone. So if any of my customers are watching this video now, they're not going to go buy my vac, and that's okay. We'll be selling the Everything Vac eventually, though.
I get you. That's the one I've actually been really thinking about getting. The Everything Bee Vac because it's lightweight. It's doesn't have you don't have to carry around extension cords. Some of those different things. That's the one I'll looking at and different things like that. I really like what it has and and its features and different things. And I see a lot of good reviews on it. Like Frederick Dunn.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of other beekeepers like Randy McCaffrey. We've had him on the YouTube channel, and
great guys.
A lot of beekeepers who have experience with those bee vacs and have really good reviews on it. So I think it's a really good bee vac, and I saw there's a lot of other good options too. If you want something that's cheaper, too. There's a lot of other good products out there. I think that's one that does come to mind when you're thinking about bee vacs. So definitely.
Yeah. I think it's a great product. And again, Tony has really hey, look at Joe. He's the man. Tony's, again, an engineer and really put a lot of great ideas into that product. So, yeah, I definitely think it's worth going for.
Definitely. All right, go to the next topic. And this is a topic that I think is really a very good topic. And it goes back to feeding.
Uh-huh.
And it's the fondant. Let me look at it real quick because I sometimes I can't remember everything. Sometimes It's hard to remember.
You got a lot going on.
Definitely a lot of different things, but I'm going to find it real quick. But There's a lot of different feeding options if you're a beekeeper, and one of those that come to mind is the Havilah fondant. So we have a video on that a while back, and I wanted to ask you what's your opinion on how I found it? And I've heard a lot about it, but I don't really have any hands-on or any experience with it. I was just wondering what you maybe have found with it, what under reviews or of watching other beekeepers, or maybe even with experience with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I have used this in my own hives the past couple winters. Again, as I said, I don't have any bees this winter, but last couple winters, I definitely did use that product quite extensively and found it to be very, very good. I've done a lot of different ways of winter feeding in the past. We've used what some people call the mountain camp method or dry sugar feeding method, where basically you just put newspaper on top of the frames, you dump dry sugar on there. That works. We've made sugar bricks, kind of a candy board type of thing in the past. Done quite a few different things, kind of a sugar cake where you just kind of pack some moist sugar together and heat it up a little bit. We've done quite a few different things, and all those methods are fine. They all work. What I love about the Hive Alive fondant is two things. First of all, it's just crazy convenient. The bees absolutely love that stuff, and I love the convenience of being able to go out there with this pre-made 2.2 pound patty. Go out there. I just take a knife. I cut the whole side of the package off of it, the whole one side of it. Usually I use the green side, because if you cut the green side off and put the back side facing up, then you have more of your clear, so you can kind of get a better idea of how well the bees are taking it. But yeah, it's just super convenient. You just cut half the plastic off, lay it on the bees, and they go to town. So before I forget there, by the way, too, some of the Hive Alive videos will tell you to just cut a small, like 4-inch by 4-inch square out of the side of the package. I cut the whole one side off. That gives the bees better access to it. And so just a quick tip there. But anyway, so the convenience of it, I love that the bees, again, absolutely love the stuff. And also Hive Alive is a great product, has some really good vitamins and amino acids in it. It is one of the only natural products on the market that has proven third-party studies, independent studies, proving proving that it helps the bees fight off nosema. Nosema is obviously a significant, intestinal disease, gastrointestinal, whatever they call it, disease in the wintertime. That's an issue for bees, especially in northern climates up here where I'm at. And so I love the fact that it has some built-in packs a punch there against nosema and other issues. But again, built-in vitamins and amino acids, and built-in some resistance to nosema helps the bees, fight off nosema. And so, great product. We sell tons and tons of it. Really, really nice.
Definitely. I gotta say another thank you to Lee for the bee vac. I appreciate that. I love good donations. I appreciate everybody, jumping in and supporting. Now I got another question here from Ron, and a lot of people know on this channel I don't really have any hands-on experience, but I've talked a lot about peppermint, and as you can see on the comment, I've talked a lot about it, and peppermint extract. And here soon we actually plan on using a certain kind of liquid peppermint oil along with some different stuff in it, and take a little syringe and put it on the side of the hives. So here's the question. Grayson has shared his opinions on using peppermint to control hive beetles. And John, I'd like your opinion on using peppermint to control SMH and small hive beetles.
Yeah. Thanks, Ron, for the question. And I'm sorry, I'm going to disappoint you here, because I am the last guy to ask questions about small hive beetles too, because frankly, here in the northern climates, the hive beetle is not as strong as it is down there for you guys in the south. We do have people up here struggle with hive beetles, but thankfully, knock on wood, it is not due to any awesome management of my own or anything other than just probably luck and God's blessing. But I have never really struggled with hive beetles in infestation. I mean, I'll see a couple here and there once in a while, smash it with the hive tool if I can, but I have never used beetle traps. I've never really tested any of that stuff myself, so I'm really the wrong guy to ask. I believe Bob Binney, you would probably know this, Grayson, has been testing the peppermint as well. Is that right?
I think so. I've been testing a little bit. Haven't not yet, but here soon we're going to start testing it and using it and see how it works. And down here, up north, that's one of the best benefits I think you could have is you don't have hive beetles. Because down here, for some reason, I know Bruce. If you know who Bruce's Bees is,
yep.
I mean, down here in Dauphin, and I'm down here in Southeast Alabama, and we have a really, really bad beetle problem. And for some reason, we've had a kind of a issue in the winter, with small hive beetles, which is odd and and really, and during summer last year, 2023, it was just unfortunately, really not a good year for small hive beetles. They were just terrible. They were killing hives, and with all beetles, overwhelming the hives, and I had to have like I said today. I think I mentioned it either on start of the live stream or in the before we started it. We had actually some beetles today too on a frame. The beetles are actually had beetle larvae on the frames. We're in February, so
yeah.
What my plan is to do is try to use some peppermint oil along with some different stuff and kind of squirt it on the side of the frames. I saw a beekeeper do that. I think that beekeeper who was doing that was some here in the comments here earlier, and I saw the video. I thought we'd test it out, and that's what we're going to do. Okay. But that's the best thing that you could ever have up north is be able to avoid small hive beetles.
Yeah, it's not all bad. I mean, we have our other challenges up here in the colder climates, but what's interesting is that it's just in the last 10 years or so, I think, become somewhat of an issue in the northern climates that the small hive beetle. Remember bees in 2005 to 2012, that time frame, small hive beetles were not an issue in the northern climates at all. It was something we heard about, kind of some vague thing we heard about the south, and up here was not an issue at all. And then by the time, so again, as I mentioned earlier, I was out of bees for several years, got back into it in 2018, and so all of a sudden now I'm hearing about small hive beetle issues up here. But again, thankfully for myself, I not really had much of an issue. But yeah, I remember a couple of years ago I was visiting Cayman Reynolds down at his place, and we opened a few hives at his house there, and I remember him pulling off one lid and on the inner cover about I don't know 15, 20, 25 beetles go scattering around, and I'm like, whoa, you got a lot of hive beetles here. And Cayman's like, oh, that's not that bad, and so that was a different. I would be pretty excited. I'd be pretty nervous if I saw that many beetles on one of my inner covers, but I guess it's not as apparently. Would you agree with that? Was that not a big deal to you?
Sometimes, whenever you see those beetles, to us down south, sometimes it's not really a big deal. Of course, whenever you start seeing like covered, you know what I mean? Of course, you're, sometimes, when you see a couple up north, sometimes, you can kind of get, I don't really know what the correct word is, but kind of alarmed, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Down here, we're so used to it. If we see that many up north, we'd be like, that's not much. That'll be all right.
Sure.
Sometimes that's how I guess we react to them. But sometimes you don't want to let that fool you, and then you have bad beetle problem. So I don't I think it's always good try to be able to solve them. That's what I plan to do. And be able to.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and I think, and I'm guessing your audience probably knows about this. I know you know Greg Burns. I remember summer or two ago he put out a video of something he called, I think, murder sauce, hive beetle murder sauce, where he was making a simple recipe. Have you used that yourself?
I haven't used it. I saw the video, and actually we've had Greg on our live stream before, so we definitely know who Greg is. He's definitely supported our channel before here, and he's been a really solid supporter of the channel.
Great guy. Him and Bruce. You mentioned Bruce. Boy, I love Bruce. Great guy. And then Brian. I mean, there was just three really, really solid guys. Definitely. But yeah, I think I've recommended to people that have asked me what to do about hive beetles. And again, as I told you, I don't have a lot of personal experience, but I would definitely, if the peppermints, try the peppermint too. It sounds like a great option. Or that murder sauce that Greg was talking about. If I had a beetle problem, I'd sure be mixing myself up a batch of that real fast and slapping that in the hive and get rid of them bad boys.
Definitely.
Yep.
I would definitely agree with that. And we still, we deal with that, down here in Alabama, and a lot of other beekeepers down south, whether it be in Florida or maybe Louisiana, Mississippi, some have those problems. I'm sure even in Tennessee, I'm sure they have, where Cameron's, I'm sure he has some problems with that as well. Yeah. And, when you get up north, it kind of winds down, but still there can be cases, up north, and you can still have problems, being able to, do that. Now, I do got another topic, we can talk about real quick, and this is one that I actually have talked about, and, everyone has their own opinion, but, you have you have screen bottom boards, and you also have solid bottom boards. So what are some of the difference between both these bottom boards, and what may be some differences between these? Because I know there's a lot of differences between them, and I wanted to hear your opinion on both these bottom boards and which one may be better than the other and vice versa.
Sure. Yeah, I kind of like the packages versus nukes question. There's a lot of varying opinions on that. I remember years ago when I was first getting into beekeeping, the screen bottom boards were talked about a lot more than they are now as an alternative, as part of what they called IPM. I think you still hear that term sometimes, integrated pest management. So you would use your screen bottom boards along with other things to help try to naturally keep your mite levels at bay. I don't hear that talked about as much anymore. I think people have mostly realized that screen bottom boards are not really a much of a solution to keeping Varroa at bay. I think the main reason that most people would choose a screen bottom board nowadays is for better ventilation. And although it can kind of be a two-edged sword in the northern climates up here. I mean, I was talking to a commercial beekeeper a while back here who runs about 4,000 or 5,000 colonies in southern Illinois, and he really boo-hoos a screen bottom board. He's really not a fan of it because he had done some testing and really felt like, especially it really had a negative effect, in his opinion, on the early spring buildup. That additional cool breeze the bees were getting from the bottom really kind of drove the cluster up higher and kind of affected the amount of brood nests they were building. And so, I guess personally, if I were starting a new colony, I would probably cater towards a solid bottom board. That being said, I realize people in the warmer climates do like that additional airflow, and some people even in northern climates like the additional airflow, that whole idea of a ventilated hive in the wintertime where you got kind of air movement to keep moisture from building up. So, yeah, I mean, I could go 50-50. I certainly wouldn't discourage someone from using a screen bottom board. We have a very popular plastic bottom board that we offer that's is a screen bottom, and it's very popular. And again, I use that too. In the wintertime, I put my corrugated plastic piece in the bottom to kind of block it up. But, it can also be somewhat, some people like to monitor mite fall a little bit with a screen bottom board, put their tray with their cooking oil or whatever on it to monitor that. I think I would rather see people use mite washes, alcohol washes, or Dawn dish soap, whatever kind of a mite wash. I would rather see that. I would not use a screen bottom as a way to really monitor my infestation levels. But anyway, the ventilation can be good. There's definitely a point of view there, but I'll be honest, if I were starting a new hive, like I said, I'd probably just use a solid bottom.
Yeah, I get you. And, of course, both have their cons and both have their pros, and vice versa. And I really use, I have some that use screen bottom boards or solid bottom boards. I have one that has a screen bottom board, and it's doing well. It can use and it can help with moisture.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have solid bottom boards. I don't really see any difference. I really do like them. And like you were talking about, going to the whole mite thing, I wouldn't use that to test because you don't really get a solid account. Just go on and get yourself a mite tester.
Pretty random, yeah. Yeah, and I would just say though, I don't want to sound like I'm really boohoo and again really negative about screen bottoms. I've used both many times over the years. I've never really seen a positive or negative effect, in my opinion, anything noticeable in a screen bottom. So I would not say it's a negative thing, but I also haven't particularly seen a positive thing either.
I get you. And while we're staying in the realm of this wooden equipment. Now, there's a lot of different boxes, and I'm sure you are familiar with a lot of different boxes.
Yeah.
You got your regular Langstroth. We'll get into some of these others here soon. I want to start out with this one, which is the Apiary hives. I don't know if you have any experience with these. I know I surely don't, and I've heard about them, but if you don't have any experience, which I really don't know if you do or not, but if you if you might have heard something, what's your opinion on Apiary hives?
Yeah, good question. I have not had any direct experience with Apiary hives. I will say I think it's a great product. I know the Apiary guys personally. Just was with them here this past weekend at a small conference in St. Louis, Missouri area. Great guys. I think it's an excellent product. I personally, in beekeeping in general, am more pro-plastic than a lot of beekeepers are. A lot of beekeepers are nervous about plastic, and I can appreciate that. I can certainly respect that. The concern about just it's not as natural for the bees and the potential of, off gassing or the unnatural effects it could have on honey or on the bees themselves. So I can absolutely appreciate that from a naturalist perspective. I'm not as much that kind of a mindset. And so I'm kind of, I'm pro-plastic when it comes to bees. And so I love the concept of an Apiary hive or any kind of Plastic hive, what I love about it is that two things. First of all, it's never going to rot, never needs paint. You'll hear me use that term when I'm talking about our plastic lids or our plastic bottom boards. I love that factor, and that I don't have to worry about, stacking up a bunch of boxes or a bunch of lids or a bunch of bottoms and painting them up and trying to get paint every which place and filled in the cracks and grooves and the end grain of the wood or things of that nature. When it comes to preserving, woodenware is a thing, and the woodenware has a lifespan. Obviously, you can preserve it better in some ways, but it always is going to have a lifespan. It's always going to rot over time. And plastic, what I love about it, I think most plastics nowadays that would be used in beehive manufacturing are very durable, very high quality, not brittle, not apt to crack or rot or go deteriorate in the UV rays. And so I'm a big fan of that concept. The Apame, however, is a very expensive product. And I'll just be frank, we're right now considering possibly either offering the Apame product ourselves, working with Apame to sell their product, or bring on a different line of similar plastic insulated beehives. But I think the no rot, no paint factor, I love that, because I love the fact that if I get if I'm a new beekeeper and I get a package of bees in and I get what if I even, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be ordering your equipment sooner and then your bees later. But if I happen to get my bees and my equipment in the same day, I can dump my bees in that Apame or that plastic hive and be ready to go.
Definitely.
It's also insulated, so that helps the bees in both summer and winter time. That's a good thing. You don't have to have an insulated hive, but that's a positive thing if you do have it. And I think Apame, specifically Apame, has a lot of really great features to their design. It's very well thought out. And so, again, even though I'm not currently selling Apame and I've never used it myself, I think it's a great concept, and I would put me in the fan column.
Definitely. I agree with you. I don't have any experience with them, but I hear a lot of good things about them.
Yeah.
About them. Plastic. I'm going to continue with some of the different house styles and and stuff like that. But first, I don't know if you can answer this question, but from Mike, he asks, "Great to see you, John. How far backlogged are your creamers?"
Hey, Mike. Yeah, good to hear from you. So we are about 2 weeks out on creamers. We are waiting on motors right now. We're waiting on a shipment of motors to come in. I'm expecting those within a couple weeks here, and so I say by the end of February, we should be shipping creamers. I would say if you haven't ordered one yet, I would recommend going and place an order, get your name in the hat. We'll get it to you as soon as we can. It's up to you, obviously. But, I would say 2 to 3 weeks is what we're looking at.
I get you. I hear a lot about, cream to honey and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of, it sounds good to me, being able to cream honey. And a lot of beekeepers like to do that, buy a creamer and make their honey and, be able to make creamed honey. And, I don't really have any, I don't really know much about creamed honey. So, while we're on this topic of creamers, how does making creamed honey work?
Yeah, so it's a relatively simple process, yet complicated. The quick version is that you're basically mixing in a seed honey in with liquid honey. So seed honey being honey that is already creamed, either already creamed honey that's someone has already creamed in a creamer, or you could even use crystallized honey, but you have to be very careful to get that. Use like a mortar and pestle or some kind of way to get those crystals and that granulated honey, get it really, really fine. You want a very, very fine, even seed to make creamed honey. So basically it's about a 10-to-1 ratio. You say if you're doing pounds, you do 10 pounds of honey to a pound of seed honey, which is, again, that pre-creamed or whatever honey, and you mix that in. And what our creamer does is it's a fairly long process, but it basically fundamentally it works it's set up kind of like an extractor. You have a tank and a motor, but instead of having a reel inside the extractor to beat, your frames go in, and instead it has a beater like a mixer in there. And so what it does, you put your liquid honey, you put your seed in there, and it mixes it. Our creamer is set up, most commercial available creamers are set up this way, where they run for a 15-minute cycle where they're mixing and 45 minutes where they're not mixing. And so during that 15 minutes, it's mixing that seed into the liquid. It's also shaping and polishing those crystals to where it's a nice, fine, smooth texture. And in the 45 minutes off, the crystals are basically reproducing and making more crystals. And then it comes on for another 15 minutes, mixes and polishes some more, then makes more crystals for it. So it's a 15 on, 45 off cycle, and our machine does it indefinitely until you shut it off. Some customers will cream for just 2 or 3 days on a batch, and some customers will do it for up to 2 weeks. So it just kind of depends on the size of your batch, what your seed is like, and just your preference of consistency.
Definitely. I think that's very interesting and a very good thing, be able to know and get into, because I know there's a lot of different beekeepers out there who want to get into that business, being able to sell creamed honey, whatever flavors and, different stuff like that. I think it's definitely a very, very good thing to be able to do. And very, very good thing if you want to, kind of get into the business of being able to sell, that kind of honey. Now,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that just real quick that, creamed honey is a hot thing right now. A lot of people are getting into creamed honey, and for good reason, because, the way we as beekeepers can make our bees pay better, right? We can make more money from beekeeping, make more money in our honey sales, and increase our honey sales by value-added products, right? So that's why you see an explosion of infused honeys, creamed honeys, honey straws, so many different creative ways to get more money, to make more profit from your honey, to reach broader audiences. Creamed honey has been something, it's very, very popular in Europe. In fact, I think creamed honey in Europe, I've been told, I've read, is almost more popular than liquid honey. And here in the U.S., it's been very much the other way. And so as creamed honey gains in popularity, people are adding flavors to it. I got one customer who has, I think last I heard, 18 flavors of creamed honey or something crazy like that. And so you can get really creative. It's fun, and it's a great way to add profit to your business.
Definitely. Now we do want to get back into our topic of, different hive styles.
Yep.
Of course, there's a lot of different styles. We're talking about the apiary hive, and there's a lot of other ones I do want to get into. And, I use Langstroth hives, and I've been wanting to get horizontal hives and some of those other ones. And, of course, horizontal is just basically a Langstroth hive, but longer and stuff like that. And there's a lot of other ones, and you got Worry hives and a lot of others I'm probably not thinking about. So we'll start out with the Worry hive, and I really don't hear this name all the time. It used to be something that a lot of people would mention up and bring up, but right now I think Langstroth is the biggest one, or apiary hives, and some of these things that go off of a Langstroth hive. But when we go to a Worry hive, what do you think a Worry hive may have of a benefit to beekeepers?
Something, Grayson, you got me at a loss here. I've heard of worry hives. I've never really studied up on them very much. In fact, I was kind of Googling it here as we're talking. The little bit I think I know about is, okay, no, I guess not. Okay, well, the first thing that bothers me when I see ideal for, I'm on a website here, is talking about worry hives, and I'm seeing the top advantage they list as ideal for hands-off beekeepers. And that hands-off concept scares me right there, because the idea that we can just throw bees in a box and walk away is not a good idea, in my opinion. I think I'm not going to be able to speak very well on worry hives. I think it's one of these things that's, kind of like the Lands concept, is that it's supposed to better mimic what the bees would normally do in their kind of upward expansion or things of that nature. So like the Lands hive, I can speak a little more authority on. They have a narrower frame, but a taller frame. And the idea is there to have more honey on top. So the bees can supposedly overwinter better by having a more complete frame of honey and brood in the same frame, etc. I thought the worry hive was something of that nature too. I could be wrong. Do you know?
I'm not really an expert on worry hives. I used to, study up on all those different hives and stuff and be able to do that. But, really, I think it's it's good to be for beekeepers who want to learn about some of these different hive styles. But just for me, I'm not going to use a worry hive. So of course there is useness if you could learn about it for me. But I just think that I like to stick around some of the concept of a Langstroth hive. I think that's just easier in my opinion. But if sometimes the Langstroth hive you have to lift a lot of different frames and stuff, and do horizontal hives. Ricky Rourke, if you know who Ricky is.
I do. Yep, great guy.
We've had him on the channel too. We've had a lot of beekeepers on the channel, and
great.
He's one that we had, and he talked a lot about his horizontal hives. We plan on getting one here soon. But this one, I wanted to talk about this hive style. This is really a Langstroth hive, but I'm sure you're probably pretty familiar with it. We've been thinking about maybe getting one. That is the flow hive. Now, a lot of beekeepers like to get a flow hive because maybe it's easier to extract honey, or maybe it may have, of course that's a benefit to it, of course, but very expensive, $1,000 or something.
Yeah.
And that's really a con if you are a beekeeper who wants to try to make a business out of it. But if you just want hobby out of it for yourself, I think it's a good investment. But what is your opinion on a flow hive and what it may do for a beekeeper?
Yeah, well, let me preface my comments by saying that I am in the honey extractor business, and so the flow hive is to some degree the competition, right? Because they're trying to build a hive that basically extracts the honey for you. And so let me preface everything I'm saying with that. But I will say this: that when the flow hive came out, what was it, 10 or 12 years ago? I was very excited about the concept. I remember reading about it. I was not a beekeeper at that current time. I was kind of in my hiatus there of several years, but I remember seeing it on the internet, and I remember that when they launched it, and then they had an Indiegogo or kind of a Kickstarter type of fundraiser to start it off, which took off like wild. I was following it. I was really, really intrigued. And in fact, I think I even donated a little bit of money, $75 or something, just to be supportive of the idea, because I thought it was brilliant. And so the idea itself is absolutely fantastic. I think the guys who invented these Australian guys, father and son, are geniuses. I think it was very, very well done. They have a great business, and they appeal very strongly to the urban beekeeper, right? I think their original idea was to eventually expand that concept into where commercial beekeepers could use it, where they had like vacuum lines to kind of, when they open the cells up, to kind of basically suck the honey out to speed it up for commercial level. That never really took off for them. They kind of have obviously leaned pretty heavily into the whole urban beekeeping concept. And so they're brilliant marketers. Again, they have a brilliantly thought out product. They're really, really good at making great videos that show the honey just cascading out of the tubes and everything. It looks great. And it is a great concept. I have heard in real life mixed results. A lot of people kind of talk it up, and then when they've actually used it for a couple of years, maybe a little bit less so. I know the bees. I talked up plastic a few minutes ago, how great plastic is in beekeeping. I think it has a lot of benefits when it comes to things like foundation or things like the flow hive frames. So that, you know, the bees are hesitant to draw comb on plastic, and that's why when we were using plastic foundation, which I'm a big fan of, we put plenty of wax on it, because that's the only way the bees will really take to it, in my experience. And so when it comes to the flow frame, you know, getting the bees to draw and put, or not draw because it's already drawn, but to get the bees to make use of those combs can be difficult. I've heard a lot of issues with that. People got to spray sugar water on them or do different things to get the bees to build in there. So that can really be an issue. But when it works, it works. That's great when it works. But again, kind of back to, it makes me nervous in a couple of ways. Again, back to what I mentioned just a little bit as I was Googling the worry hive there as we were talking. You know, the flow hive, one of the dangers, I think, of the flow hive is that it contributes to this notion of, you know, you throw bees in a box, you put them in your backyard, or you put them on your rooftop or whatever, and you just kind of go out there when you want some honey on your pancakes, and you open the valve and you just dump honey on. No, that is not beekeeping, okay? And so, and you know that I'm preaching to the choir, but you know, that's the concept that I worry about a little bit is, and it always makes me nervous when I got customers coming in to our store or talking to me on the phone, and they say, oh yeah, I just want to get started a couple of hives of bees. I bought 20 acres. It's got fruit trees. It's got this and that, and I just want a couple of hives out back to pollinate stuff. And I'm like, okay, guys, you do realize that this is a commitment, right? You have to have a passion for beekeeping. It's not about just getting cheap honey. This is not about having a little bit of pollination. This is a commitment. You have to be passionate about beekeeping. And so that's a little bit of a concern with the flow hive concept, because I don't want people to think they can just have this hive and just go grab honey when they feel like it. Is a management. You have to manage bees because they're livestock. You have to manage bees like livestock. Anyway, sorry, soapbox there. I got a little bit wound. But anyway, I think it's a great concept. I think it's good for some people, not good for everybody. Then just back to the cost. You mentioned very expensive. Again, they really lead into this whole urban beekeeping concept where they have very fancy hives, very tastefully done with their garden hive lid and things like that. Very, very nice stuff. But I mean, you know, again, I'm saying this as an extractor salesman. You know, by the time you buy a couple of their $800 or $1,000 hives, well, you can start up a couple of Langstroth hives, and you have enough money left, regular Langstroth hives, and you have enough money left over to buy an extractor from me and get started. But that's my salesman thing.
And definitely, you know, I definitely agree. You know, a lot of times whenever people get flow hives, they think, oh, it's gonna be so easy. You know, I don't have to do anything now. I don't have to do anything. And, you know, I think beekeeping is a commitment, and I've talked a lot about that before. I know there's a lot of people who disagree with that, who think, you know, bees can, you know, live, without your attention, which, I'm sure you probably could. There's bees out in the wild, but this is just my opinion. And, sometimes whenever I go on, a lot of times I have controversial videos, and, sometimes, I try to stick away from that because then I can kind of definitely get on the road. But,
Yep.
For me, whenever you get bees, it's always going to be a commitment.
Yeah.
You always have to commit your bees because, you're the one who got the bees. You're the one who put them in the box. You have to commit to them and be able to, take care of them because, they're livestock. They are livestock. They are something that you have to take care of.
Yeah.
And we have a question here in a second. I do want to say thank you to Thomas again. He's a very good supporter here. $20 donation. I really do appreciate it. We have a lot of good people on the live chats who watch, and I really do appreciate them. And says I love mine. I don't like extracting honey outdoors, though, and consider the flow hives as more ornamental than anything. Honey for sale to the public needs to be processed in a clean environment. We got a question here about genetics, and there's Ricky. We got Ricky from Horizontal Hives.
Hey, Ricky, good to see you, man.
We're just talking about about your horizontal hives for a second. We may talk a little bit about those here soon, and end off. But you can just give your takes on this. Is just a genetic question, and I've used Russian bees, and yes, I have a question. Anyone here have any experience with Russian bees? What's your opinions on them?
Yeah. So genetics. I think genetics are great. I think there's a lot of place for there's a lot of beekeepers out there. They're doing some great things. Corey Stevens with VSH. There's a lot of beekeepers out there. There's some guys who've been developing the Russian bee for 30, 40 years, I think, or better now. There's a lot of great genetic stuff going on. There's, of course, the Saskatraz line, which has been around for about, 10 years or so now, is where people have been setting out, especially the Saskatraz line, to kind of develop, if you will. And I don't think they would ever say this, but I mean, they're, to some degree, they're trying to develop the perfect bee, right? A bee that will overwinter well, that will resist mites, that will produce honey, that will be relatively gentle. All these things are what we want. Those are the characteristics that we look for, that breeders are breeding for. And so we're all trying to do to get that bee that's the best bee we can have. And that's a great thing. And again, I think great work is being done, especially this VSH stuff. I think is really, really intriguing. The concept that the bees have hygienic traits built into their breeding that it causes them to search out varroa infested brood and remove it. Brilliant stuff. And so I love it. What I do caution new beekeepers against, though, is, understand me, guys, here. Many of these things I'm saying when I get on a soapbox is because I've made these mistakes myself, right? I've been a beekeeper for a better part of 14 or 15 years on and off, but I've made a lot of these mistakes. I've had us in the northern climates, we struggle to get bees through the winter often as beekeepers, and so I've been that guy that grasped at straws. Oh, I need a different kind of hive, or I need a different breed of bee, or I need more insulation, or I need to leave more honey on, or there's so many different straws that we grasp at as beekeepers because we're trying to figure out how to make our bees survive. And genetics is a big one, right? Oh, if I just had Russian bees, and again, to the gentleman who asked about Russian bees, I don't mean to disrespect you because I've asked this question too, and I think Russian bees are great. I think Russian bees are very winter hardy. They are great honey producers. They tend to be pretty aggressive. So, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm answering that question there. But that's been my experience with Russians. But Russians are a great breed. But I think generally speaking, we need to be really careful in what we're looking for when we're asking about genetics, because I don't want beekeepers, and again, I've been this guy, okay? I don't want beekeepers to be using genetics as a crutch or trying to use genetics as the answer for our failure to keep bees alive. And I'm talking to myself when I say this because I've been this guy, okay? And what I have learned is that beekeeping is largely about management. It's not the style of hive you use. It's not about what breed of bees you have. I get so many beekeepers in our northern climates, since we're in Illinois, a little bit cooler climate than you guys down there. We get a lot of beekeepers asking us for northern bred bees. I want nukes that have overwintered in Illinois. I want queens that have been raised with northern genetics. And I understand why they're saying that, because I've been that guy too. I've wanted that thing too. But it's really, Russian bees can survive in our climate and produce good honey. Italian bees can do the same. Carniolans, Cordovans, all these different breeds, generally speaking, have the genetics we need to produce good honey in nice amounts to survive the winters. I mean, again, here in central Illinois, we think we got a cold climate. Go to Canada where Ian Stepler's at, or I have customers in Alaska that are keeping bees, and they're somehow getting it done. And so it's really about keeping your mites at bay. And again, VSH and certain genetics can help with that. But we really need to be careful in our management. And number one, keeping that varroa at bay, keeping them under control, being diligent in that. And the genetics are great, but I think the genetics should really take second place to management. Sorry for the soapbox there. I hope that made sense.
Oh, definitely. I agree. Too. Also have to can't use all these different genetics. Like you said. I agree the same thing. I've also talked about the same thing too, and it's really important for beekeepers to understand and think about. I've used Russians before, and they work really good for honey. All these different things, they do good for a lot of different things. They overwinter good here. I also right now I don't have any Russians. I used to, but right now I have just Italians, and I like Italians too. I think I really like both of them. They work good. One thing about Italians is that they're a little more gentle. They're a little bit more easier to be able to handle. So I really think that's definitely a good thing to be able to do and be able to think about all the different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, sorry, with respect to the gentleman, I apologize, I missed his name, who asked about the Russian bees. I would absolutely give him a shot. Especially if you're an experienced beekeeper with a couple years under your belt, I would absolutely experiment with different genetics, with different breeds. I would try Russians, no problem. For a new beekeeper, I usually probably tend to push them towards Italians or Italian Cardiolas, just because a little bit gentler. Russians do have a reputation for being a little bit meaner. Some people say no. Some people say, "Oh no, my Russians are fine. My Russians are gentle," and that may be the case. Absolutely, there's obviously a variety of experiences out there, but I would absolutely recommend give it a shot. The Russians, I think they're a great bee, but I just want to be careful again, just to not be leaning on those genetics as a crutch if we're having trouble getting bees through winter or keeping bees alive.
Oh, definitely, I agree. That's something you always want to think about. You know what I mean, and something that we always do want to think about and give information on. Here's a Mike. He says, I would highly recommend John for your bee supplies. Nicest guy you ever talked to. I buy everything from him and never met him. Just talked to him on the phone.
Oh my, Mike, thank you so much. You're very kind. You don't know me well enough, I can tell. But thank you so much.
Definitely. Well, I've been the one who asked the question. I know you asked me before, if you want to ask me questions, but do feel free if you want to ask any question, because, I've been asking all the questions here. If you do have any questions, for me, because I know you asked about that, and here soon we're going to wrap it up, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity if you wanted to.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but by the way, before I get into a question, just respect to what Mike just said there. I tell you what, and you could attest this, Grayson, and I'm sure your whole audience can, that beekeepers are some of the nicest people you will ever find. Some of the most honest, kind, decent people. It's really, really a pleasure that I have a real privilege that I have every day to talk to beekeepers, interact with beekeepers. They're just some of the nicest people out there. It's amazing. And really easy to be in this business, frankly, because when we occasionally make a mistake or, mess something up on our end with a customer, and boy, by and large, the folks are so nice to deal with. And so thank you again, Mike, and all of you out there for your kindness. So anyway, yeah, Grayson, I was curious though, you mentioned, so you said you're 13 now, you got bees 7 or 8 years ago. So you were in diapers almost. How did that happen? Did you on your own? Was your family involved already?
So, I was about probably 7 years old, I would say.
Okay. Maybe not diapers then, sorry, but it's been a while.
It has been a good bit. And, I'm 14 right now, and I'm turning 15 coming up a year. So when I turn 15, it'll probably be about 8 years.
Okay.
Let's see here, 2017 or 2016, either one. I can't remember the exact year. But, when we started, it was really our mom's idea, or our parents' really idea to kind of get into it, And, let me start really from the beginning. We started watching videos and stuff. I can remember, just sitting down watching videos from bees and different things, a lot of different beekeeping things, and handling them. Some of those basic beekeeping things on YouTube, and that's been a more popular thing to do now. Being able to have YouTube to learn from. We also did get some books too, so I read some books too, and a lot of different books. Actually, we actually do. I've read a little bit of the Beekeeping Bible. I'm sure a lot of beekeepers know that one. It's a very, very big book and has a lot of good information in it. But then, we did that. We actually got 2 hives from Florida. I forgot exactly where in Florida. I can't really recall some of those things. But, we got 2 hives and brought them back and set them. If people who watch my videos, we set them out in our woods. So that's why the name Wildwoods Honeybee Farms come from. A lot of times when beekeepers ask that, I'll say that's really where the whole concept of my channel name come from, because our bees are in the woods, so we have a honeybee farm. So that's interesting story there. And then we kind of started from there. 2 hives. We went up. We got some some packages, and I don't know if they really did well. They didn't really do too good. Some of them starved out. Some of them didn't really make it. But some mistakes that happened. But I've learned from those too. And then we've really been kind of keeping on from that point. And for the first year or two, I forgot if it was year 2. I think it was year 2, year 3. When our mom was still doing it a little bit, we actually did extract some honey. Then the time when we extracted honey was when we got some. When I was talking about, we got some suits. Whenever our dogs tore up our bee suit.
Yeah.
And so that's whenever they did that, we always want to get some more suits and be able to go out to the bee yard and do some different things. And this was time, we had our 2 hives, and before that, I just really not a timeline for everything, so I'm just kind of recalling from memory. We actually think this was time whenever we got some packages and they didn't do too well. And right then after that, whenever they didn't do too well, we had 2 hives. And don't recall me on that. I can't say for 100% sure if that's the way it happened. That's just what I kind of remember. And, we got some more suits, and then we went out there. And this might have been before the packages from what I remember, because what I can remember, we didn't have more stands, because we had 2 stands kind of standing upright, 2 hives, whatever. And I think it was only those 2 hives actually. And this was before the packages. And we went out there and we planned on extracting some honey, because I can remember we got all the stuff. We got everything. We got some new smokers. We got some new stuff. We actually got an extractor. I forgot what the extractor was. It might have been your extractor, but I can't remember. We got it off Amazon though. I probably would have got your extractor if we knew about HillCo, but at that time we didn't know who HillCo was. But anyway, we got a extractor from Amazon. I can't remember the name or anything. I'll have to go look at it.
Sure.
And we went out to the yard and we got some frames. And the thing I can't remember is the bees were not happy at all. And we started opening frames. There like a whole bunch of bees everywhere on the face and whatever, trying to sting you. You can smell it. And we had no idea that they were, going to be that mean, because when we opened them up, it was just full of bees. Because, we haven't managed them for about a year, and, we're surprised that they were still going and still being able to, do that. But there was a lot of honey in there, and we extracted it. And then after that, I think we kept on going. We got some packages. They didn't do too well. And then we went to earlier. I think it was around 2008. Maybe actually it was 2020 or 2019, somewhere in that stage. We went to Birmingham, Alabama. We got some full hives, and there were some already established hives, and they were doing pretty well. And we brought them back, and none of those survived, unfortunately. So I think there was a year where I had 0 hives. And unfortunately that happened, but we had 0 hives or something like that. So I guess we either had 1 hive or we were beeless.
Sure.
Then after that year, 2020, I can kind of remember this better. We actually got some nukes. I forgot. I think it was 4 actually. It was 4 nukes. That's right. It was 4 nukes, and that's really where everything really, really got started. That's really whenever we became a little bit more decently able to sustain. Right now, like I said, I only have 3 hives, but I've really been just going up and down, up and down. And after that, all those hives that I'm talking about, they're not here anymore because I replaced them with more. But really, what I want to do, and everybody knows, I really kind of want to sustain everything. So but other than that, everything's been going good. I've learned a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, and
we all have.
Yeah, everybody has, and really that's the whole thing. And I know I probably made it kind of long there, but that's really how everything kind of went along, and we kind of got interested in bees. It's all I've been into bees ever since, and I don't know if I mentioned, but I really our mom was into it, but then I kind of took everything over. I did it by myself, and I'm the only one who really goes out to bee yard anymore, and I'm the one who does everything. And
Nice.
haven't extracted much honey anymore. So, and unfortunately, we just haven't been able to have good honey flows because last year we didn't have a good honey flow. But that's really how everything happened.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been doing the YouTube channel?
Well, we've been doing that for 2-3 years.
Okay.
And I'll say this, and a lot of beekeepers know how everything got started here with the YouTube channel. And first, I had like 20 subscribers. I was a very small channel, and nobody knew who I was. Nobody probably knew who I was. And the only reason why I probably had 20 subscribers was because I did some shorts and they got popular or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so this beekeeper found me. His name is Bob, and he found me. He actually invited me on a live stream. This is where I actually did my first live stream, and where I got interested in the realm of live streams and stuff like that. I really don't know if my camera doesn't work right now. It might be out of battery. But let's see here. But anyway, yeah, my battery's out of battery. So give me just a second. But I will continue. I guess it'll be all right. But I did a live stream, and I was able to get a couple more subscribers or whatever, and do that, and that was a good thing that I guess I was able to do. I guess that's all right for time being. Here, let me go on and get the solid here. But we kind of did that, and we did a live stream, got me some more subscribers or whatever, and that was something that we did, and after that, we really. I don't know if that's really.
There you go.
Yep. That'll be all right. And
there you go.
Gone to this place, where we kind of got more subscribers. I think I got about like 100 subscribers out of that. And then after that, I went on the Stream Team's live stream one time, and
nice.
They shouted me out. I really appreciate everybody who's helped me out. And I've been on a lot of other different things. And then at Hive Life last year, I had like 350, about 400 subscribers, I would say.
Nice.
And then we went there, and we did some different interviews. I don't know if they're uploaded. I was on the stand. I don't know. That was Hive Life 2023. We wanted to get up to North American Honeybee Expo this year, but we weren't able to make it. Maybe next year we'll be able to get up there in Kentucky and do that. But I met a couple of different beekeepers. They interviewed me there, and you might have heard of him, David Burns. So he was there too. He was actually the beekeeper who I kind of watched and kind of got started into, I would say. And we did an interview there too, and I got some interactions there too, and we had David on here on a live stream too. That was fun as well. And really after that, we started doing these live streams more often. I remember right after the Hive Life, we got a whole bunch of beekeepers on, and that within the 2 months, and it was just incredible on how many guests we got on and stuff. And I haven't been, and you're actually the first guest I've had on this year, because I haven't really.
Thank you.
You can definitely say that. And I wasn't able to really get any guests on, and I just couldn't think of one. Really what I did was, I'll try to get back on topic in a second. Sometimes I get off topic. I just kind of scroll.
So do I.
Through my my subscription. Sometimes I'll do that once in a while when I'm thinking about who should I get on a guest. I keep on thinking that through my head, and I kept on scrolling, and then I see HillCo, because I subscribe to HillCo, your channel, and I thought, hey, I should get John on here. That'd be a really good chat. And that's kind of how I did that. But even after that, really, that's how really our channel grew. And a lot of times, whenever you people ask, like how my channel name came up, I kind of mentioned that earlier. Our beehives are in the woods, and we live on a 40-acre piece of land. And we've been keeping bees for a long time, and we live on our granddad's land, and that's kind of really how our YouTube channel got going. But we have our bees are in the woods, and we after that we kind of grew from there. And Wildwoods honeybee farms, just kind of put Wildwoods, and then with the honeybee farm, it kind of added up. I do got a question here from Mike, and I do apologize, Mike. I forgot to star your question, but this is for you, John. And he asked, question: any plans on making a smaller creamer?
Yeah, great question, Mike. It's a question I've gotten a number of times here in the past few months since we launched our current 24-gallon size. Yeah, we will be. It will probably be next year. I would say sometime in 2025, if I had to guess. It's kind of a little bit of a catch-22 for us launching a smaller creamer because I can see the appeal for smaller beekeepers that are perhaps only doing 5 or so gallons at a time, maybe 8 or 10 gallons at a time of honey. But for us, it's kind of hard because it doesn't cost us too much different. Our cost doesn't go down that much to build a smaller creamer. You still have a motor, you still have a controller, you still have a tank. And so the cost of materials doesn't go down drastically. But yet, if I'm launching a creamer that's half the size, then people expect it to be significantly cheaper. So, but yes, the answer is we are working on that. And probably next year we'll be launching a smaller creamer. I haven't decided on the size yet, probably a 10 or 12 gallon. Another thing we might be doing, I'd like to do eventually, and I'm not immediately working on plans for this, but I'd like to eventually do something like Lyson does, which is basically have a motor and controller and a bar with a mixer attachment on it that you could put on maybe an existing honey tank you have, or a 5-gallon bucket or something like that, to give a little more versatility and keep the cost down. So that's something we're going to consider doing in the future as well. But so it's not going to happen this year, but probably I would say in 25 we'll have a smaller creamer.
Definitely, that's going to be very good for beekeepers.
Yep.
And we've been going for about an hour here, so I'm probably going to wrap this thing up. And what I will say this: I really do appreciate you jumping on here and chatting with us tonight. And for people who want to see John's YouTube channel and HillCo, I have the links in the description below. I'll put them in here too if people want to go see the channel, their channel. A lot of people may not know about it. Go check it out. I do appreciate you, John, joining us tonight and talking bees. And, that's what we are all about, talking bees and being able to give insights on different things. So I appreciate you jumping on here and taking the time to join us tonight.
Well, thank you, Grayson, very much for your time and having me on. It's been a lot of fun. And I will say, I'm sure you hear this a lot, but, at 14 years old, I'm really impressed and thankful for what you're doing to help beekeepers, building your own beekeeping operation, putting your face out there on YouTube and just getting out there and getting it done. That's what this world needs more of. Our society needs a lot more of that, of young people like yourself. Getting in there and just becoming part of the conversation, and so there's too many young people nowadays want to sit at home, play video games. Maybe you do a little bit of that. That's okay if you do, but getting out there and getting things done and it's really, really commendable. So thanks for what you're doing. I really encourage you. We're going to share your channel as well on our methods of communication. We have a pretty large email list and our own Facebook following and stuff. So we're going to be sharing this interview and trying to promote your channel as well. So thank you so much, Grayson.
Oh, no worries. And thank you too for joining us. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you everybody on the next Beekeeping live stream. Take care, everyone.
Have a good night. Thanks.
No problem.